in Accra to reflect on leadership and economic transformation in Africa. We'll hear him on those matters when we come back. Later on, we'll bring you highlights of the KPMG post-budget forum where Lord Boateng spoke, as well as other key economic thinkers discussing the future of Ghana's economy. Stay with us.
Papa no no, papa no no, papa no no, papa no no, no, papa no no, Ankasa. Polytech is everywhere, durable and authentic. Stronger brand you can trust. Polytech, we get sumo, Rambo, and get sumo super. And the Polytech, we did.
Polytech, papa no Ankasa.
Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the winner, President and Chair of the Board of the Trade Finance Bank of Africa, Afri-Exim Bank, Professor Benedict O. Rama.
In navigating financial challenges in our region for sustainable development, when we look at challenges, we also know that challenge is one side of a coin. You have challenges, we also have opportunities. And that is why Afri-Exim Bank has grown the fastest in times of crisis.
I also thank organizers for considering me worthy of this prestigious award, which I will cherish all through my life.
The Africa Prosperity Champions Awards APCA and Presidential Gala Dinner unites visionaries from heads of state, business leaders, social change makers to innovators to celebrate African excellence in order to encourage a new generation of leaders. More than an awards ceremony, this event declares that Africa's narrative is one of triumph and prosperity. We celebrate a new story where African solutions guide us forward. Each honor exemplifies the vast potential of our continent. The fourth edition of the Africa Prosperity Champions Awards and Presidential Gala Dinner takes place on February 6, 2026 at the Kempinski Gold Coast Hotel in Accra, Ghana. To attend, you may contact +233 536 098325 or send an email to protocol@africaprosperity.network. You may also visit africaprosperitynetwork.com for your tickets now.
No matter where we wander, Africa always calls us home. And here in Ghana, Stanbic Corporate and Investment Banking, together with clients like Gensa Energy and Goldfields, is driving sustainable growth.
The transition from fossil fuel to cleaner energy is quite imperative for the growth of a continent that we call home.
We want to contribute to delivering affordable gas for industrialization in Africa.
Stanbic is a bank that is focused on impacting lives, and Gensa has the same vision and mission.
Having a reliable source of power has helped our business and our operations in a significant way.
At Stanbic Bank, we bring businesses together, empower communities, and invest in the next generation. Stanbic Corporate and Investment Banking, driving growth, creating impact.
Uncle are almost here.
Wait a minute. This one too, your friend Kwame.
Wait, Kwame. As in the same Kwame again?
Yes, Mommy.
I'm the second coming. Into all this tension just to reintroduce that broke boy from Kaswa.
Why would you deceive the family like this again?
Now I understand the whole delay. Troll from Kaswa. Why wouldn't he be late? Or be late?
Of course.
Star 712 hash, star 712 hash. You go be the luckiest. Copy from Georgia be luckiest. From not the block, she be luckiest. Yeah, you go be luckiest. No matter what you're luckiest. Everybody go be that luckiest.
That's Kwame.
Send your God down for boom. If you're poor, what's that? So would the coming of the Son of Man be. Is that his car?
Dial star 712 hash. Choose your ticket. Enter your lucky number. Follow the prompt and let destiny handle the rest.
This promotion is regulated by the NLA on the Caritas platform.
When malaria strikes your home, it strikes everything. No more endless worry because of malaria. Fight malaria back with Vegetem. Vegetem is effective, safe, and fast-acting against malaria. Vegetem tablets stays effective right to the very last tablets. Vegetem is also available in suspension for children. Vegetem, tough on malaria, easy on you.
Our first guest is a man many people in Ghana love to love. Lord Paul Boateng is a man of many firsts, of both, of course, Ghanaian and British, in this Scottish heritage. He has come back to Ghana to help in many ways. He's visited Ghana many times, and he's in Ghana currently because the Africa Center of Economic Transformation is holding its board meeting with some global thinkers on how to position the continent for economic transformation. A couple of days ago, he was at the KPMG post-budget dialogue to pass a few comments, give us lots of things to think about. So I've asked him for a fuller conversation, and he's graciously agreed. Lord Boateng, thank you so much for talking to us.
Bernard, it's great to be here.
My God. The first question, why are you here?
You know, I'm here because first and foremost, I am an activist and an advocate for Africa and for the continent. Ghana is obviously close to my heart. It is part and parcel of my ancestry. I was brought up here. I went to school here. Accra. Bleo. So for me, I never need an excuse to come to Ghana. But on this particular occasion, I'm here to attend a board meeting of the Africa Center for Economic Transformation. And we're in the business of about being there with Africa on our journey, there for African governments, African business, African civil society, and saying to them and to the world, we really have to meet the challenges of the time in which we live. We have to meet them always guided by that dictum, that saying of Dr. Agre, Agre of Africa. Only the best is good enough for Africa. Only the best. The best in terms of practice, of policy, but above all at this time, of delivery. We've got to deliver a strategy that is about transforming Africa, creating jobs, creating wealth and opportunity for all the people of our continent.
In 70 years ago, the question for Africa was the question of political independence. Would you say that economic transformation is the question for Africa or something else?
The emancipation of Africa is not complete and will never be complete until we have ensured that all our people benefit from the continent, its growth, its natural wealth, in terms of its biodiversity, in terms of its mineral wealth, but above all, in terms of the human capacity of its people and its young people in particular. I mean, we are the oldest continent in terms of our geology. Yes. We are the cradle of civilization, of mankind, but we are the youngest continent in terms of our demography. Yes. And that means making sure that young people realize their potential. Look, we need, and the figures are there, they speak for themselves. We need to create between 12 and 15 million jobs every year to meet the need for a decent employment for Africa's youth. But the reality is that on the present trajectory, on the present record, we only create 3 million. Now, that simply isn't good enough in terms of realizing the potential of our young people and our continent. We have to do better in terms of job creation and the creation of opportunity for young people. And we have to free up the natural talents, the enthusiasm, the skills, the creativity of Africa's youth.
Does the current global context make it much more difficult. I'm talking about, they call it G20-1, right? The United States and their policies around looking inward first, issues around trade. In a sense, some of the work you've done in the past has tried to use Western economic power to help Africa with the likes of Gordon Brown and the rest of them. If you look at where global geopolitics is today, does the challenge you've identified for Africa become much more tougher?
Look, there's some real challenges out there. There's no doubt that the trade wars that currently afflict our world potentially and actually have a downside for Africa. You know, there's a saying, when two great beasts fight, it is the grass that gets trampled. And there is a real sense that with global contestation between the emerging powers of China and the East and the United States, the EU, Britain, with that contestation ever more impactful in terms of the world, the governance of the multilateral institutions, the UN, the World Trade Organization, the IMF, the World Bank. These are not institutions when East and West are on a collision course that are likely to deliver for Africa. So we really have to understand as a continent that our future, the future of the continent, does not lie in Washington or in Beijing or in Moscow, in London or Paris. The future of the continent lies in the decisions that Africans make for Africa. We can no longer rely on external overseas development aid in order to deliver on the needs and aspirations of our people. We have to look to the continent's own resources, mobilizing, utilizing them better, more effectively, improving our capacity to deliver to our people. We have to do what Kwame Nkrumah, what Julius Nyerere, what Sabaka Tafawa Balewa, Zeke, Ufo-Ebwanye and the rest of them, Leopold Senghor. What did our forefathers and our foremothers in the independence movement call on us to do? They called on us to put Africa and the integration of Africa's trade and economy at the heart of our development. Instead, we have all too often looked externally for our salvation. Well, we've got to stop doing that. And that means policies that are rooted in the experience and culture of Africa and its people, but policies that don't just sit on shelves and don't just exist on paper or on the internet, but that are actually delivered. It's all about implementation. Africa's not short of policy. What we're short of is of implementation. And you know, it's only Africa and African institutions, its business, its civil society, its governments that can deliver on that.
When I listen to some African leaders, for example, a few weeks ago at the UN in New York, President Mahama spoke about the need to reimagine the UN, 80 years. A lot of developing countries feel multilateralism has failed them. You're also calling for an African type of solution. Do you think Africans believe they have the model? Because don't forget, economically, 1945 was a seminal year. Bretton Woods formed, UN. A lot of the economics we've been taught and how we've imagined the world has been based on neoliberal ideas. Now it's 80 years, we realize it's failed. Does the African intellectual, does the African political leader have a third way? Do they have a way that is authentic to their needs? Or they will still have to depend on those policies of 80 years that have frankly failed us?
We have to free our minds. You know, when I was a boy at school, at Accra Academy, and a GIS before, when we wanted to challenge our thinking, and when we identified in one another or in our teachers an unwillingness to embrace what Kwame Nkrumah called the African personality, we would say, oh, you are Kolo. You are Kolo, meaning your mentality is colonial. And, you know, there's still an element of that.
Yeah.
And, you know, almost 70 years on, the colonial mentality is still there. We always tend to feel that somehow the white man knows better. Or indeed the Chinese man knows better. The foreigner always knows better. Well, actually, no. Of course there are things we can learn from Britain, from the United States, from China, from India. Of course there are things we can learn. But at the end of the day, we have to root what we do in our own culture and in our own experience, and we have to create institutions that are fit for purpose in Africa. And importantly, we have to build and develop those institutions, and to do so in a way that is inclusive, accountable, transparent. And does that mean addressing issues of corruption? Yes, it does. Does it mean zero tolerance of corruption? Yes, it does. Does it mean a willingness to call out bad practice and bad policy? Yes, it does. Does it mean opening up our minds and our institutions to a range of people and a range of sometimes contesting ideas, and taking from that the best? That's what Agre meant when he said only the best is good enough for Africa. And that's what we have to do. And one of the first things we have to challenge is this belief that somehow others outside the continent always know better than us. We have to challenge that. But we also have to challenge a tendency to decline, to involve young people in decision making.
Okay.
Because it seems to me that we have to put the challenge of the economic challenge that is presented by a growing youth population, we have to see that as an opportunity. And that means fitting young people through our education system, through our training and skills policy, fitting them for the world of work, encouraging and enabling young people's sense of entrepreneurialism, their ability to grasp the new technology. Look, if you look at the world of apps, if you look at AI, the reality is that young people in Africa are doing some incredible work, creating apps that are relevant to them, utilizing artificial intelligence in a way that delivers to them. And we have to make sure that we are part of the technological changes that are occurring in our world. And young people are best placed to do that. And we, the older generation, have to free them up to do so.
We're speaking to Lord Paul Boateng, who is in Ghana to be part of a very important board meeting for ASSET. And of course, his father was a minister under the Nkrumah government, studied partly in Ghana and of course trained in the UK, rose to the very high office of a member of parliament in the United Kingdom, was the secretary to the Treasury at some point in the United Kingdom. Let's talk finance. 2 points on finance. 70% of African finance ministers or African ministers of finance spend 17% of their revenues on debt service. So there's a big conversation about the type of debt they incur and whether there's need for some sort of reprieve to unlock money for social spending. That's point number one that I want your comment. Number two, where will the long-term finance come from for transformation? We have AFDB, we have AfriExim. They don't seem deep enough. For example, we've been talking about the Grand Inga and powering our development for years. We still haven't found the domestic resources as a continent to unlock that. So talk to me a bit about whether there's need for the extent to which you can push the idea of debt treatment, and then how do we raise the type of financing we need to really unlock energy, green finance, and that type of thing?
Look, I was Chief Secretary to the Treasury in the UK, the Cabinet Minister responsible for public spending at the time in which we negotiated Nigeria's debt relief package. I was in the Treasury when we negotiated the HIPC deal with Ghana, the higher indebtedness.
President Kufuor.
Exactly. And at that time, the nature of the debt was very different from the nature of the debt today. We were dealing at that time largely with sovereign debt. Now we're dealing with debts where there is exposure to the private sector, where there's a much greater mix of debt. And we're not, and commercial. And we're not going to be able to handle it in the same way. But we're going to have to find, and the international multilateral organizations are going to have to be part of that conversation. We're going to have to find a way through that. But you know, what we can't do is to have a situation in which we aren't actually mobilizing resources successfully domestically. We have to ensure that our own tax systems in Africa are transparent and are effective and raise a revenue, both locally and nationally, and that we invest in the capacity to do that, which will require an element of digitalization, which will require us to understand the role of blockchain technology and the new developments in technology in making our tax collection more effective. And people will have to recognize that it's a civic duty to pay tax. But people will also want to know that their tax revenues are being used effectively and are not being siphoned off for the private wealth of a political elite. So what that means is that we're going to have to deal with corruption and inefficiency. What that means also is that we're going to have to invest in human capacity and in infrastructure, and that we're going to have to seek to mobilize both public and private resources, which is why private-public partnerships undoubtedly have a role to play. But you know, let's just take the issue of the extractive industries. Can we honestly say that Africa has benefited from oil, from gold, from diamonds, from rare earth minerals in the way that they should? No, we can't say that. Why is Obuasi in the state that it's in, and Johannesburg in the state that it's in? In Johannesburg, you see the benefits. True, there is still real inequality, but you see in terms of the infrastructure, the benefits of mineral extraction. You don't see the same in Obuasi. We are faced with an environmental disaster from artisanal mineral extraction in Ghana. So we've got to make sure that that Africa gets the benefits from oil, from rare metals, and from its mineral wealth. And that means organizing that better. It means combating corruption. It means getting a better deal on global markets. All things that are doable, but they require policy and focus and delivery.
It may also mean being accused of resource nationalism, where, for example, in some countries like Indonesia, they ban the export of tin. Or there could be the Botswanan way, where you have a 50-50 arrangement where the state adds value. The point for raw materials from Africa has been the export of them raw. What's your comment around adding value, developing the value chain, and financing that in a way that can still benefit from the global economy?
Developing the value chain is crucial. It's crucial, but it's not just crucial in relation to mineral wealth. We have to do the same in agriculture, you know. It would be a great shame if African economies were to simply believe that the future lies in mineral extraction. There's been no country, the US, the UK, Europe, Korea, Vietnam, China, Japan. There's been no country that has achieved development without an agricultural, a green revolution too. And the reality is that we have paid, as a matter of, I'm the beneficiary of a Cocoa Marketing Board scholarship. My paternal grandfather was a cocoa farmer in Achimtafo. At the time he was farming cocoa in Achimtafo, there was a direct rail link between Tafo and Takoradi. Where is that now? Well, you know, how are we supporting farmers? And supporting farmers not just simply in terms of building their capacity, in terms of seed, in terms of nutrients, but how are we developing the supply chain? How are we linking them to global and continental markets? And that requires intervention. Intervention, yes, from the Africa Development Bank. It requires a banking sector that is open to regulatory intervention, to de-risk investment in support for agriculture and agricultural processing. And all of those things require young people to change their mindset in relation to agriculture. Look, when I was at school, as today, young people were not keen to go to farm. The fact of the matter is that we are not making the most of our agriculture because the generation of farmers is aging. We need young people to get back into agriculture, but also to see agriculture as a form of agri-entrepreneurship. So agricultural processing becomes something that is seen as a career opportunity. You know, in Kenya, they have something called coffee cadets. So this is young people who see the advantage to them in terms of livelihoods, not just simply of growing coffee, but actually of being baristas, of opening up coffee shops, of actually processing coffee. Let me give you an example, and it's happening in Ghana already. Young people are doing this. I had a drink the other day made in Ghana, made in Kumasi, comprised of mushrooms and ginger.
Wow.
Grown and processed in Ghana. An incredibly nutritious, organic drink. Now, you know, we should be saluting the young entrepreneurs who developed that particular drink. They need to be assisted in developing their plants and exporting that drink through Africa and indeed to the world. And the Africa Free Trade Area gives us that opportunity, reducing tariff barriers and non-tariff barriers within Africa, but also aggressively marketing our produce, our processed produce to the wider world, and mobilizing local resources to do that, not simply relying on externals. Let me give an example. Niche Cocoa, excellent firm. They are not only producing high quality chocolate in Ghana, they've opened up a factory in the United States. This is how we do it.
This is the example.
This is an example. This is how we do it. It can be done. And the role of government, our own role. Look, the individual choices we make as consumers, I don't understand why anybody would choose Indian rice or Japanese rice
over Ghanaian rice.
I mean, my own wife, who is from Barbados, whenever I come to Ghana, she expects me, or whenever she comes to Ghana, she expects me and us to return with Ghanaian rice.
Correct.
But the truth of the matter is, it's beginning to happen in our local shop in the UK. You can buy shito. Ghanaian-made shito. You can buy it in the UK, shop. In the local shop.
That's progress.
Now, that is, and this is in one particular area where we spend some time in the countryside. This is not in London.
Okay.
You can count the numbers of black people in that village on one hand. But they sell shito in the local supermarket. Now, what that means is that Ghana has something to sell that appeals to Western palates.
Wow.
And it is the job, it seems to me, of African consumers and African governments and African banks and financiers to get behind this generation of entrepreneurs so that they can market their produce abroad.
Do you still frequent Ghana? I ask this because I know your father worked with Kwame Nkrumah, and of course you did study here, but you've become more like a Pan-African in your outlook.
Yes.
You've served in South Africa for How close is Ghana to your heart, and how heartened are you about our progress? You've done this constitution since '93, 32 years of uninterrupted democratic governance, changed governments many, many times. Of course, we have a youth board as well. Do you grieve over Ghana, or do you boast? Where's the emotion when you talk?
I am proud of Ghana.
Okay.
I am proud of our democratic dispensation. I am proud of the fact that Ghanaians are able to change their government peaceably. I am proud of the role that Ghana has played traditionally in terms of the United Nations and in terms of peacekeeping in the world. I am proud of the achievements of the Ghanaian diaspora in every walk of life, in business, in the arts, in fashion, in global governance. Look, in my lifetime, there have been two Ghanaian cabinet ministers in the UK. I was the first of them, and there was another one. And there will be more. There's a whole raft of Ghanaian men and women in Parliament as we speak. Men and women of Ghanaian origin. So, we should be proud of what we have achieved in Ghana and globally. But do I believe that we can do better? Of course we can. And I am very clear in my own mind that there is the talent, there is the skill, there's the passion in this country to realize the aspirations of our forefathers and our foremothers, that for Africa, only the best is good enough.
So when we come back, I'm going to take you into the KPMG UNDP Post-Budget Forum, where Lord Boateng gave quite a stirring speech to African leaders. We'll hear that and also bring some other highlights. At that program, the UNDP resident rep spoke, as did the head of economic or macroeconomy for the Ministry of Finance, Sam Akest, and a few other speakers, including the GRA commissioner. We'll bring you those highlights in the second part of the program. Stay with us.
Kwame and his uncle are almost here.
Wait a minute. This one too, your friend Kwame.
Wait, Kwame. As in the same Kwame again?
Yes, mommy.
I'm the second coming. Into all this tension just to reintroduce that broke boy from Kaswa.
Why would you deceive the family like this again?
Now I understand the whole delay. Troll from Kaswa. Why won't he be late? Obey you later.
Of course.
Star 712 hash, star 712 hash. You go be the luckiest. Go be from Georgia, be luckiest. From not the cause she be luckiest. Yeah, you go be luckiest. No matter why you're luckiest. Everybody go be the luckiest.
That's Kwame!
Send your God the apple boom. If you put it that way, so would the coming of the Son of Man be. Is that his car?
Dial star 712 hash. Choose your ticket. Enter your lucky number. Follow the prompts and let destiny handle the rest.
This promotion is regulated by the NLA on the Caritas platform.
Attention all State Housing Company Limited homeowners, landowners and clients. From November 3rd to December 31st, 2025, the State Housing Company Limited is giving you a 15% discount on all outstanding payments.
Oh yes, spend less on your ground rent, land regularization, lease renewals, consents to develop or assign and service charges, and secure your ownership today.
Visit any SHC office nationwide to make your payment in full to benefit from the 15% discount.
You can locate the State Housing Company Limited at Ring Road West, adjacent STC Yard and Accra Digital Center.
For more information, visit our website www.statehousing.gov.gh or call 0302 221 422 or 0552 725 656 or 0503 083 393. Remember, this offer ends December 31st, 2025. Don't wait, pay less today.
When you buy, you build. Your purchase becomes progress. Each choice writes a better story for someone else.
Afro-quality. Buy African, build Africa.
Kwame and his uncle are almost here.
Wait a minute. This one too, your friend Kwame.
Wait, Kwame. As in the same Kwame again?
Yes, mommy.
I'm the second coming. Into all this tension just to reintroduce that broke boy from Kaswa.
Why would you deceive the family like this again?
Now I understand the whole delay. Troll from Kaswa. Why won't he be late? Obey you later.
Of course.
Star 712 hash, star 712 hash. You go be the luckiest. Go be from Georgia, be luckiest. From not the cause she be luckiest. Yeah, you go be luckiest. No matter why you're luckiest. Everybody go be the luckiest.
That's Kwame!
Send your God the apple boom. If you put it that way, so would the coming of the Son of Man be. Is that his car?
Dial star 712 hash. Choose your ticket. Enter your lucky number. Follow the prompts and let destiny handle the rest.
This promotion is regulated by the NLA on the Caritas platform.
You know, in our Akan tradition, they don't ask you by way of introduction your title. They don't ask you your occupation, your former occupations. Lord Boateng, former Chief Secretary to the Treasury, High Commissioner to South Africa, all those things. They don't ask you any of those things. They don't even ask you who your mum and dad are. They simply ask you one question. You know what it is. Why are you here? And if you think about it by way of introduction, that's the best possible question to ask. And I'm here simply because I am attending a meeting of the Africa Center for Economic Transformation, founded by K.Y. Amoko, who many of you will remember from the UN Economic Commission for Africa, one of Ghana's foremost economists, and a great think tank doing great work on the continent. And I'm here also as a senior independent non-executive director of the Ghana International Bank, which is the oldest Pan-African bank in the City of London. I'm having a meeting in half an hour with their staff here in Accra. So that's why I'm here, but I am privileged to be with you at KPMG by their invitation from an old friend, Imos Ansah, who I've known since he was, 16, 17. My wife and I are great supporters of him and his family, and he told me you were meeting and asked me to come, so I said I'll be delighted to do so. And while I'm here, just to make a few remarks, not in any way to comment on the budget you have just had in Ghana, and certainly not to comment on the budget we are going to have in a few days' time in the United Kingdom. I have learnt as a former Chief Secretary to the Treasury that it's best not to comment on the activities of the finance ministers who have followed you. So I won't be saying anything about that. But I do want to make one or two remarks about the challenges that we face globally today in terms of the global economy. These are challenging times, in many ways unprecedented times. The tectonic plates of the international financial system, of the international trading system, are changing. Things are not going to be the same again. And we delude ourselves if we believe that there is going to be any return to what was. There's no going back. The world is going to continue to be an uncertain place, a dangerous place in many ways, but also and importantly, at a time in which there is policy uncertainty globally, that there's no doubt about that, at a time in which there is increased trade tension, no doubt about that either, and real risks, not least from persistent inflation and subdued foreign direct investment. Those two risks are here and have to be managed. But they are also, and importantly, in my view, real opportunities. The threats that I have outlined to developing economies are real, but they are also opportunities for developing economies. And for Africa, the most important opportunity is to wean ourselves off this debilitating dependency on overseas aid. We really have got to do that. I am old enough, and by the look of it, one of the oldest people in this room. You are celebrating the 60th anniversary of the CD. I remember going with my father to the launch of the CD. I was present as a small boy opposite the military hospital, waving a flag when Kwame Nkrumah and Princess Marina passed by in order to go and to make the Declaration of Independence. So I've been around. And I remember a time in which the GDP of the Gold Coast, Ghana, was greater than the GDP of Malaysia. So, and you know where we are now. So that would suggest that we really have got to rethink our economic model. And we have got to foster increasing self-reliance. We have got also to recognize the importance of reform, the reform of infrastructure, and a focus on infrastructural development. The importance of developing our human capital, not least of our youth, and of enhancing the capacity and quality of our institutions. That's an absolute imperative. And in doing that, we have to draw upon the skills that exist in Ghana, the real skills, the skills that exist in Africa and the wider diaspora. And we have also to recognize that, you know, the WTO is going through a period of real crisis. And that's not going to change anytime soon. But that doesn't mean that we shouldn't be building in Africa on our own potential to develop our own initiative around the Africa Free Trade Area. It's absolutely central. Rather than wringing our hands about international and global trade, we need to look at continental trade and what we can do in order to bring down the barriers to trade within Africa and to improve intra-African trade. And for me, that means going beyond rhetoric to reality. It means policy reform so that the experience, there was reference earlier on to the Marcola market woman. I judge the success of the intra-African free trade area on what is the experience of that woman who is carrying produce on her head, who is carrying produce on her back, who is in the vehicle bringing her goods to market from one country to the other. What is her experience when she crosses a border? What's her experience when she crosses the border between Ghana and Togo, between Ghana and Abidjan? How is she treated? Is she harassed? Is she subject to corruption? Is she and her supply chain subject to tariffs that don't actually have any justification? So it's all about implementation. We have got the plans in Africa. The plans are there. They're in a very high quality. The question is implementation. That is the challenge. And, you know, I will just say this, that, you know, when it comes to implementation, we have got to recognize the importance of actually going beyond rhetoric. You know, when I was at school, we talked a lot about, too much rhetorics. Our headmaster, Kunwa, used to say, don't forget the school motto, esse quam videre, to be rather than to seem to be. We've actually got to live our solutions. It means that the private sector, and I salute KPMG for the work they're doing in that, the private sector and the public sector have to be able to work effectively together. We have to tackle these issues of procurement. We've got to remove the obstacles to doing business. We've got to unlock the natural enterprise that exists within our people. And the role of government, whether in the UK or in Ghana, the role of government is to be an enabler. government can't do everything. What government can do is to create an enabling environment. So I wish the government of Ghana, I wish my government in the UK well as they wrestle with the challenges of these times. But you know, the answer ultimately lies not in governments. The answer lies in people, lies in you all, lies in your businesses, your sense of enterprise, your sense too of collective responsibility for nation building. And that applies whether we are in Ghana or in the UK. And the one final thing I will say to you, as I said when I addressed the Africa Caucus of the IMF and the World Bank in Abuja last year, is that we need to put the youth and the youth demographic at the center of our policy making. Because Ghana's youth, Africa's youth, are the future. The future not only for Africa, and don't forget we have the fastest growing youth population in the world. We are the youngest continent as well as the oldest continent. The oldest continent geologically, the youngest continent in terms of demographic. We have to put them at the heart of our policy making. And that means making sure that we don't just build their capacity, but that we provide them with employment and we encourage and support their own efforts for employment going forward. And that older men and women are prepared to make way for younger men and women, and to join with them across the generations in delivering on the dream that our foremothers and our forefathers had for this continent. And that means opening ourselves up to the possibilities of AI. It means recognizing the importance of blockchain technology. I do hope that features in the course of your deliberations today, because that's the future. And sometimes we as older men and women wrestle with that. But believe you me, AI and blockchain are going to change our world. And Africa has to be at the heart and at the forefront of that. So I wish you well. I thank you for all you are doing. And there was a phrase that I learned when I was British High Commissioner to South Africa. I learned it from the Zulu and the Xhosa people. And it's a simple word, but it means everything. And that word is vikuzenzele. Vikuzenzele. If there are any South Africans in the room, they will recognize that word. But you know what it means? It means this. Get up, get out there, and just do it. Get up, get out there, and just do it. Vikuzenzele. Thank you very much.
Here I see our friends from KPMG, Andy and others. I see 24-hour economy-ish. Look up from your cell phone, please. Ghana Revenue Authority just stepped out, but all old partners, and great to be in this space, collaborating with you. And looking at what is close to the heart of UNDP. The survey throws up really, for us, 2 points very, very urgently. One is the cost of capital in the country. Ghana's unemployment rate still remains pretty high. And if you look at the age group of 15 to 24, it's extremely high. It's well in the 30s, 35% or so unemployed. Which means, colleagues, there will not be enough jobs, as informal jobs, for many people who are just coming of age now. So developing enterprise, getting small and medium enterprises going, making people job creators rather than job seekers is going to be prime. It's going to be Africa's challenge of this century, but it's certainly going to be a challenge in Ghana. I've come to know and love this country for 1 year now, so it's something I'm deeply conscious about. And the second issue is, if we do crowd in private sector financing, whether it's to SMEs, micro, small and medium enterprises, or the formal private sector, anyone who starts business here, the cost of starting business is extremely high. The cheapest SME loan is 17% rate of interest. So, colleagues, if we can really get the budget, which is our principal policy instrument, to work for making the cost of doing business lower. Otherwise, we will not have enough jobs for our young people. And that's absolutely critical to UNDP. If you read the survey, you will see that SDG 8, which is jobs and economic opportunities, it comes up as one of the leading areas. Also comes up health and education as the other leading areas, SDG 3 and SDG 4. But for us, nothing is more important than crowding in private sector capital. And I implore the government to please de-risk initial investment. So the government can come in and bear first loss for startups. If this can be done, we will have a thriving culture of startups. I was just telling Andy, my last posting was Malaysia, which is a very similar economy, very similar economic structure, but with 7 times the per capita income. That's my seat. Just kidding. I have been unseated before. Oh, no. I have been unseated before. So colleagues, I won't take much more of your time. It's just I have 5 minutes to speak, and we in India love to speak on and on. So just to say that let's try and de-risk capital. Let's make the cost of doing business lower. And thank you for supporting the SDGs, and a huge thank you to KPMG for being our fellow traveler on this. Thank you.
So you notice that the budget is anchored on the theme resetting for growth, jobs, and economic transformation. And this is actually a lever of His Excellency, the President vision of overall resetting the nation. And therefore, within this context, you will notice that the budget outlines a number of measures that will influence revenue mobilization, that will drive investment in various infrastructure, that will propel growth, lead to job creation, and also there are certain key areas that are also covering social protection. Those are very, very fundamental key pillars that you see in the budget. And because the minister's rep has already spoken about some of these areas, and being a taxman, let me first focus on some of the key areas relating to taxation. And then towards the end, I'll bring all the other elements together. So first, in terms of the area of revenue mobilization, and Honorable Boateng just mentioned that it is about time we just do it and we in ourselves mobilize from within. So domestic revenue mobilization, if we are going to get out there and do all the nice initiatives that have been cataloged in the budget, is going to anchor on making sure that we drive growth and improvement in our domestic revenue mobilization. And that anchors the very transformation that we are looking for. Without the revenue, we will not be able to build our schools, we will not be able to build hospitals, and will not be able to provide all the essential social services. And that's where, from where I stand, I come in within the bigger umbrella of revenue mobilization. GRA's mandate is actually the tax component, which is also actually a significant component of domestic revenue mobilization. So you will see that in this particular budget, and also in the 2025 budget, government policy has been very deliberate to take steps to use tax policy to create the environment for business to grow, reduce costs, and create the opportunities. So I'll take a moment to explain some of these reforms which have been announced by the minister as far as tax revenue is concerned. So the first is the major reforms that has been announced respect to VAT. So VAT, as we all know, is a consumption tax. And the more we consume, the more we pay, the more we generate revenue. So today, if you look at Ghana's population, we are at a point where we are consuming. And as we continue to join God to procreate, we expect that the population will grow. And therefore, if the population is going to grow, we are going to eat more food, we are going to drink more, we are going to use more cars. So consumption is set to grow. And therefore, VAT, from our perspective, is a major tax type that we need to make sure that it's working and it's working for us. And if it works and actually get the way that we want, it will generate actually the needed domestic revenue that we are looking for. So part of the reforms is both structural, process, and technology-driven. So the first thing that government has proposed is, one, to lift the threshold of VAT registration from 200,000 to 750,000 Ghana cedis in respect of goods. So this actually takes away the burden of small, micro, and individual enterprises that actually struggle to be able to keep their books as far as VAT is concerned. So we are lifting this away and say, focus on your business, deliver selling. When you go above the threshold, we'll come and collect our taxes. But until you get there, just focus on your business and do. So this is a big relief. We believe that is going to support our micro enterprises to be able to focus on their businesses and do what they do best. So you have these businesses employing 5, 10, 15 people. This is about ensuring that they are focusing to grow. They are focusing on job creation. The second one is the elimination of the cascading effect. So today, the VAT that we have, you will notice that we have the levies, which is 1% COVID levy. You have the 2.5% GET fund. You have 2.5% National Health Insurance levy. Now, before you charge the VAT of 15%, you apply or you charge the VAT of 50% on these levies. So which means that you are paying tax on levies that you are paying to government. The implication is that it is a cost to business. But the worst of it was that the 6%, which was the COVID levy and the GET fund and NHIS, were not deductible. So we were actually adding 6% costs to businesses. Government policy, we are saying we are going away from that. So no cascading. Number two, you can claim the full benefit as input tax, NHIS, and the GET fund. And the next one is COVID is gone forever.
So we've been listening to the reflections of this great African British leader, Paul Boateng, reflecting on the key issues of leadership and economic transformation here on The Point of View. We also brought you some highlights of the KPMG UNDP Post-Budget Forum held in Accra on Monday. My name is Bernard Avle. Thanks for watching tonight's edition of The Point of View. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.